He was so nice. He invited me to his house for the interview. I spent a couple hours there. We looked at old pictures that he had and just an amazing life story of the things he went through. But more specifically, to me, one of the most interesting things that he covered was the JFK assassination.
And of course, we know what happened November 22nd, 1963. And that's when my career changed. And that's when I became a real newsman and reporter. And of course, the assassination, Jack Ruby was a big fan of KLIF, was looking for me when he came to the police department to bring me sandwiches. That's when he first saw Lee Harvey Oswald. And he forgot all about me. He kept asking around if they'd seen me because he went down in the basement. That's where they took him for the lineup, Lee Harvey. I was by myself in the station when President Kennedy arrived at Love Field. So I did the news and I had it all ready to go. I said, as if by some heavenly omen, the sun broke through the overhanging clouds and President Kennedy asked that the bubble top on the limousine be removed so he could see the people of Dallas and show that he loved Dallas. Well, they'd taken out all kinds of ads of, the John Birch Society and the right-wingers or whatever. So anyway, Joe Long was at the airport and I get a call on the phone hotline. The rule was we always started the big 24-hour tape machine whenever you had a phone call in the newsroom. I said, Delaune, KLIF News, and the caller said, what do you know about shots being fired at the motorcade with Kennedy and Connally being hit? I don't know, but I'll find out. Well, number one, I didn't start the tape as was directed, as I should have done. Number two, I didn't say, who is this? I didn't find out who it was. But I did call the police department, my contact, Dorothy Plimpton. She said, yes, we do have a report. Well, I went on the air with it, and Ferris Rooks-Duell, who was the analyst for the FBI for many years studying the Warren Report, he contacted me in about 2011 or 12 and said, after all these years of studying the Warren Report, you were the first reporter to announce on radio that Kennedy had been shot. And I said, well, I never claimed that. He said, no, but I talked to everybody that I know, plus we had two guys monitoring KLIF since we were the #1 station. When my report came out that he'd been shot, they headed right for the Texas School Book Depository. So he said that all the reports of the Warren Report, et cetera, showed that I was the first one to report it. And so it, as you well know, became chaos. And I fed maybe 300 stations or more that day, maybe 350, including the Canadian Broadcasting System, the BBC. And so I was by myself until Joe and Roy Nichols got back from the airport. They sent me to the police department because I had the contacts. And so as a result of that, I would get tips all the time. Well, Jack Ruby was a big supporter of KLIF, big fan. And he also, he was a little Jewish guy, insignificant. He wanted to be a martyr. And he went to the Dallas Morning News after the shots were fired at Kennedy and hung around there for a while and then raced over to KLIF. Well, I was over there for hours. You can imagine how chaotic it was. Because I think my bulletin was at 12:33, I'm not sure, but I interrupted a song called I Have a Boyfriend.
This KLIF bulletin from Dallas, 3 shots reportedly were fired at the motorcade of President Kennedy today near the downtown section. KLIF News is checking out the report. We will have further reports. Stay tuned.
So I interrupted that with the bulletin, and when they got back, I went to the PD, police department, and stayed there for hours and hours. So Jack was making a nuisance of himself. I mean, because he wanted to be a big shot. KLIF News, Jack Ruby, can I help you? He started answering the phone. But so did everybody else, salespeople, the clerks and the girls and everything. So somebody said, to get rid of him, he said, what can I do, what can I do? Gary Delaune's been at the police department for hours. Can you take him something to eat or drink? Yeah. Well, Jack goes out to the delicatessen on Cedar Springs. And he gets, I didn't know for years what kind of sandwich it was he was trying to bring me. He ordered a sack full of corned beef sandwiches. And so he leaves the barbecue and goes to the police department and somehow found his way down to the basement. I'm on the 3rd floor making reports from the press room. He goes into the basement where the lineup room is, and he started asking about me, where I was, and nobody said anything. So he saw him bringing in Lee Harvey Oswald. And there are pictures of Jack in some of the video where he's in the back of the room, he's looking at Lee Harvey Oswald. So he said that's when he first started thinking about Jim Lavelle, who was handcuffed to Oswald and the investigator for both the Kennedy shooting and the shooting of J.D. Tippit. He said, Jack, why did you do it? He said, because I wanted to kill that SOB to avenge Jackie Kennedy, to give her some peace of mind. He wanted to be a big shot. It was unbelievable how chaotic it became, the whole city of Dallas. And so I went back to the station all day Saturday after the arrest of Oswald. And I was just worn out. I don't remember the show, the stories I gave at all. I don't remember at all about Saturday. But on Sunday morning, since I'd worked all Friday night and Saturday, the news director, Joe Long, said, don't worry about coming back. Don't worry about the transfer. It's going to happen at early morning. Well, Chief Curry was going to transfer him at 4:30. You know, they were going to put him in an armored car. That's what everybody thought. They were going to use that as a decoy, take him on down to the sheriff's office. Well, the network guys got together and he went to Curry and said, oh, Chief, this is a big story. This is a national story. Can we get you to transfer that during the time when everybody's watching instead of 4:30 in the morning? He said, oh, I'll do it at 9:30. He relented. So I woke up about 5 o'clock, or maybe earlier, and I had just been married about 3 months. And my wife said, where are you going? I said, I'm going downtown. She said, Joe told you not to come. I said, I got a feeling. I've got to go. So I go down to the KLIF studios, which is about 2 blocks from the police station. And I get there and I take a recorder and I walk over to the police department, go down the ramp. And how Jack got in, he was at the Western Union office a half a block down the street because one of his strippers needed money, so he wired her money, $50 I think, to pay her rent in Fort Worth. So Jack wired the money, and they had very little security outside. They had 2 cops on each side of the police department. One went down ramp into the basement, the other one up ramp going out to the other side. So Jack saw this car coming in, turning left into the basement. Well, he got down and kind of frog walked where they couldn't see him and goes down the ramp. Everybody knew Jack Ruby. I mean, the cops all knew him, a lot of them did. Like he hung around the radio and TV stations. So anyway, he goes down there. Well, we have a camera about 4 times the size of this one. That's when you had to move them, you know, all over the place. And it was the pool camera right in the middle as they were going to escort Oswald out of the basement office. The car was to back down like this, and they were supposed to meet at the same time, and they were going to push Lee Harvey down to the floorboard and go out. Well, they were using an armored car as a decoy because there had been all kinds of threats that they were going to kill Oswald. Well, first off, the armored car was too tall and it didn't clear the air conditioning duct, so they had to pull it back out. And so they were backing the Galaxy down, and I had got over there in plenty of time. I'm in a group of about 4 or 5 of us on this side of the big camera. Jack Ruby frog walked into this side over here. Well, you know, what's Jack doing here? I thought everybody knew Jack. So he's over there on this side. I didn't see him at all. Bob Huffaker and some of the other reporters over here, and I'm over here. Jim Lavelle, who was handcuffed to Oswald, didn't know who it was. You can imagine strobe lights like this one here hitting him in the face. All Jim saw was this gun down the side, and he saw it come up like this. He jerked Oswald because he was handcuffed to Oswald. Plus he had his hand in his belt. He jerked him like this, and the bullet went in right here, as you will see in the picture. And he said, Gary, if I hadn't jerked him, maybe it wouldn't have killed him. I don't know. But anyway, nobody knew who it was at first because Jack took a step and a half and bang, 38. One shot, Jim Lavelle and I recreated the steps that Jack made from the Western Union. It took us 1 minute and 38 seconds, I believe, to get from the corner down to the basement where he would have gone in. And so I'm knocked back over a rail. Bob Jackson continues to shoot the pictures, and everybody jumps on Oswald. They pull Oswald, and they grab Ruby and jump on him. And so they take Oswald back into the office, and they take Jack into the upstairs area elevator. And so everybody's got their guns out. As you see in the picture, all these cops are around, and so it reverberates. Only one bullet, but it sounded like it was a couple of bullets because, it goes, boom, and it echoes through the basement. So as soon as I could, they cordoned us off. And I don't know how many minutes went by, and they let us go. Well, in the meantime, I started my recorder as I saw Will Fritz come out, and I've got some audio of that. I said, "Here he comes," led by Captain Will Fritz of the Homicide Division, the accused assassin.
Captain Will Fritz leading the way, being escorted by police officers and...
About that time, bang.
The shot rang out. The shot has rung out. And Lee Oswald falls. Lee Oswald has fallen. A shot has rung out here.
After a few minutes, they let us all released. And so I run up the ramp, and I run down to the corner, back around, about a block and a half. I ran as fast as I could. And I don't know how many minutes had gone by from the shooting scene. The only thing live was the network pool camera, because back in those days, we didn't have wireless mics or connection, especially from a basement. So I get back, and the quality's not very good, but we have it. Because during the trial of Jack Ruby, it was chaos. They had people got there early so they could go into the courtroom. They only had a number of seats that were allowed to be used by the public. So one day, I got down on my knees, and it was so crowded, and I made my way underneath, and as Jack went by, I said, "Jack, do you want Joe Tonhandle on the case?" Well, he used a couple of profanities, and he didn't know who it was because he just yelled back, said, "No, I don't want him on there. Hell no, I don't want him on there." So they called me to testify in his appeal in 1964 after he was found guilty. So I said, Gary Delaune, KLIF News. Well, Jack was sitting about where you are. I said, "Gary, where were you, man? I was looking for you. Where were you?" I said, "Jack, you just couldn't find me." So people said, "Was he looking for you?" That's the first time. So the New York Times and other publications that Jack Ruby was looking for me when he came to the police department. That's why he was there that night. So it was just sheer chaos.